All right, welcome back. For the next video, I'm going to show you how I basically go through and take notes or find important ideas and events or whatever within my reading. Stuff that's going to be of great importance when I'm taking an online test that's open book or open note, or when I have to study for a proctored exam. Okay? So on the right-hand side, we have the model here that we're going to go through. This is just going to be the worksheet that I'm going to work on and show you what I do to take notes. On the left-hand side here, we have the course material that we're going to reference and use from. It's just an article, or a bit of an article, from about Richard Nixon that I got off the internet from this source. So it really doesn't matter anyway in the grand scheme of things, but it's just a chunk of content, or maybe even a handout a teacher in an online, political science class or history class would hand out to you to read. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. On the right-hand side, like I said, we're going to go over here and we're going to do the notes. Okay? When you use Google Docs, everything is pretty straightforward. Up here, you can choose what kind of text you want, whether it's a heading text, a title, normal text is typically what it's set on. But we're going to go with a heading because we always want to have a heading on our notes. And our notes are going to be called Richard Nixon Notes, which is really important. That way, if you ever go to save your paper, and this is the first thing on your paper, it'll automatically default to Richard Nixon Notes. Now, of course, it won't do that here because it's not the first thing listed. But if Richard Nixon Notes were at the top here and you went to hit save, it would automatically default to the first sentence that's on the paper. Very cool to keep in mind. It'll save you a lot of time if you're using Word. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look for some things. Now, when we look for things in a paragraph, we got to kind of figure out what we're looking for. And what we're looking for really depends on the course that we're in. Okay, so for social studies or poli-sci, what we're going to look for typically are names of people, places of importance. We're also going to look for names of documents. Oh, not names, faux documents, names of documents. We're also going to look for important dates and their significance. Very important there. We're also going to look for quotes. Quotes, those are also very, very important in the grand scheme of things. And finally, words we think we know, but we really just don't know what they mean exactly. Now, what does that mean? Well, you see a word and you're like, oh, I've seen that word before. But if somebody were to ask you to define it in some sort of defining vocabulary tournament, you wouldn't be able to successfully define it. It's very important that when we take notes, we build vocabulary. If we don't build vocabulary, we'll never be able to really critically think and evaluate content that's presented to us in higher level courses. You may get vocabulary in courses that are level 1 and 2000 that is, weaker than that of 3 and 4. And the vocabulary you'll see in level 5 and 6000 for grad work will be stronger than that in 3 and 4. And when you get to your doctorate level courses, your level 7000 courses, the terminology that's being thrown around, if you don't have a foundation or a way of adopting that terminology to your vocabulary, you're going to be left high and dry. It's not so much about studying for a GRE exam and getting a good score as much as it's being able to actually know the definition of a word. So this is important. We have to actually open ourselves up not only as students of the subject that we're learning, but as learners who are interested in developing their vocabulary. I hope that makes sense. So this is what we're looking for when we go through to take our notes. We're looking for names of people, places of importance, names of documents, important dates and their significance, quotes, and finally words we think we know, but we just don't know what they mean exactly. If we do this, we can really start to understand how history, in this case, social studies or poli-sci, because we're using the Richard Nixon example, how the topic, in essence, is really there in the course. And once we understand the topic, we can begin to adopt that knowledge into our understanding and apply it later on. So we're still using this. We're going to use the social studies or poli-sci. Now, granted, this is just a list of things that we look for in, social studies, poli-sci, humanities courses, stuff of that nature, even language arts to an extent, or literature courses. This is typically some of the stuff we're looking for in our notes. If you're doing a science class, Terminology is going to be key. Formulas are going to be key. The application of these formulas. Stuff on the periodic table, that's all important stuff. Math, certain formulas, certain ways of applying those formulas, names of variables and expressions, to name a few. I mean, it's really about taking what's in the subject and trying to figure out what's important. And what is ultimately important will constitute this list. Okay, but for social studies, poli-sci, humanities, literature, that sort of stuff, this is a good list to stick by. It's pretty much so the list I've stuck by for almost 10 years. So now that we have a list of what we're looking for, let's just go ahead and we'll make this italic so we know what we're looking for. And you know what, we'll even highlight it too. We'll come over here and we'll highlight it in yellow. We're going to start to search for this stuff. All right. Now, how do we do this? Well, this is the next video. Okay, I'm going to show you how to go through and search through the paragraphs for this stuff and how to populate a list. All right, it's a little slow at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. So go ahead, continue on to the third tutorial video, and we'll go from there. Thank you.